I want you to picture a modern construction site. I mean, not just the noise and the dust, but the sheer volatility of it.
Right.
You have cranes swinging tons of steel overhead, concrete trucks backed up, and a schedule that is so tight that, a single rain delay could cost tens of thousands of dollars.
Oh, easily. The margin for error is effectively zero. In a lot of industries, if you make a mistake, you, I don't know, delete a file or something.
Lose a client, maybe.
Yeah. In construction, you make a mistake, you can lose millions. Or, people get hurt. It's a different level of risk.
Exactly. It creates this intense pressure cooker. But here's the strange part, and it's really the core of what we're looking at today. If you ask the people running these massive projects, the project managers, the superintendents, how they actually learn to manage all that chaos,
Yeah.
what's the answer you almost always get?
Oh, it's always, I learned the hard way. Or the classic trial by fire.
Trial by fire. It's almost worn like a badge of honor in the industry, right?
Yeah.
I survived it, so now I'm qualified. But today, we're doing a deep dive into some source materials that argue that whole mindset is, well, a systemic failure. We're looking at the philosophy behind CKE, that's Construction Knowledge Essentials, and their platform. Go to CKE.com.
And their premise is, it's pretty compelling, but it's also a little uncomfortable.
It is. They argue that relying on trial by fire creates this dangerous void in how professionals develop. They have a name for it. They call it the quiet gap.
That phrase, the quiet gap, it really is the anchor for this whole discussion. It just keeps coming up in the documents.
It sounds a little ominous. What exactly is that? What's in the gap?
It's the invisible space between someone's on-paper experience and the actual structure they need to do the job. So think about it. You hire a young project manager.
Okay.
They're smart, they're ambitious, they work hard. You hand them a $10 million budget and a safety plan. But you haven't given them the mental operating system to understand why they're making decisions or how to actually control risk.
So they're just running on instinct.
Instinct, memory, and let's be honest, a fair bit of panic. They're just mimicking what they saw someone else do, but without knowing the mechanics underneath. The sources call this reactionary learning.
Reactionary learning?
Yeah. You wait for a problem to blow up, you scramble to fix it, and if you manage to survive, you call that experience.
And CKE's whole mission, from what we've read, is to replace that reactionary panic with what they call a structured operating system.
Correct. The goal is to move construction management from this, oral tradition where wisdom is passed down like folklore to something that's a codified science. It's about giving people the structure before the fire starts.
So let's dig into the current state of the industry first, because the sources paint a pretty stark picture. They say young professionals are told to manage risk before they even know where the risk is coming from.
Right. It's like telling someone to fly a plane by saying, just don't crash. It's helpful advice, I guess, but it's not a system.
Not at all.
And the sources point out that traditionally we rely on mentorship to bridge that gap. You find the old veteran on the site, that grizzly superintendent who's seen it all, and he teaches you the ropes.
Which sounds great in theory. I mean, mentorship is supposed to be the gold standard in any trade.
Ideally, yeah. But as CKE's argument is that relying only on mentorship is dangerous because it's so inconsistent. It all comes down to luck.
Luck? How so?
Well, who's your mentor? Are they a good teacher? Do they even have time to teach you? Or, and this is the crucial part, did they learn a bunch of bad habits 20 years ago that they're now passing on to you?
So bad processes just get grandfathered in. You're not just inheriting wisdom, you're inheriting all their biases and inefficiencies too.
Exactly. If your mentor is disorganized, you learn to be disorganized. CKE is trying to standardize that core wisdom so it doesn't depend on who you happen to sit next to.
Now, I want to clarify what this platform is, because the materials we looked at are very, very specific about what it is not.
Yeah, this was interesting to me. They state pretty explicitly, it is not a motivation platform. It isn't about hustle culture or, waking up at 4 a.m.
So no grindset content with pictures of hard hats.
None. They also say it isn't just a generic library of training videos. Those safety videos from 1995 that everyone plays in the background while they check their email?
Right.
CKE is defined as a structured knowledge system. The analogy they use over and over is an operating system.
An OS.
Yeah, just like your laptop needs an OS to run software, they argue a construction professional needs a mental OS to run a project.
And the architect of this system is a guy named J.B. Wolf. The sources describe him less as a guru and more of a catalyst.
And that's a key distinction.
Yeah.
He's not claiming he invented construction. He just noticed a pattern. He saw that the high performers, the ones who ran smooth jobs, protected the company's money and actually went home on time.
They weren't necessarily the ones with the most years on the job.
Exactly. They were the ones who were, in his words, structurally clear.
Structurally clear. That feels like a very specific term. Break that down for us.
It means they understood the invisible mechanics of the job. They got that a contract isn't just a document, it's a risk map. They understood the relationship between a project manager and a superintendent isn't just about being friends, it's a specific alignment of authority.
So Wolf built CKE to sort of extract that clarity from the top performers so it can be taught.
That's the idea. Take what's locked inside the heads of the top 1% and make it learnable for everyone else.
Okay, let's get into the nuts and bolts then. The platform is structured in layers, and I think walking through these really shows the philosophy. Layer 1 is called practical resources. The sources call them survival guides.
Yeah, this is the stop the bleeding phase. It's designed for immediate use to reduce preventable risk. It's the stuff you need on a Tuesday morning when things are already going sideways.
One of the resources that really jumped out at me was the PM Superintendent Rules of Engagement.
That is a critical one. In construction, that relationship between the project manager in the office and the superintendent in the field, that's the central axis of the entire job. If that axis breaks, the whole project fails.
And usually you just hear, communication is key.
Yeah.
But this seems more prescriptive than just talk more.
Oh, much more. The guide actually outlines how authority tends to drift. For example, who really owns the schedule? The PM creates the baseline, sure, but the super owns the daily logic of who works where.
And when those lines get blurry.
That's when tension forms. When a PM starts dictating sequencing they don't understand, or a super ignores a major contractual milestone, this guide tries to structure that conversation before it becomes an argument.
It's almost like a prenup for the job site.
That is a perfect way to put it. It just aligns the expectations before all the stress hits.
There are also contract clause guides.
These are all about preventing exposure. Most people in the field, they don't even read the contract until something has already gone wrong.
Which is way too late.
Way too late. CKE argues you need to understand the levers of the contract. Things like notice periods, change order rules, delay clauses, so you know where the landmines are before you step on them.
Another interesting one was the APM interview prep. APM is Assistant Project Manager.
Yeah, and normally interview prep is just corporate fluff. You know, tell me about a time you overcame a challenge.
What's your biggest weakness?
I worked too hard.
Right.
This tool reframes the whole interview. It preps the candidate to talk about documentation strategies and schedule awareness. It's teaching them the job during the interview. So if an APM candidate asks, how does your firm handle RFI aging? Instead of, what are the benefits? They immediately signal they get it.
It signals a whole different level of competence. And then there are the weekly job intelligence reports.
Right. That's about market awareness, tracking material costs, labor availability, hiring shifts.
But why does an APM or a PM need to know that stuff? Can't they just focus on their blueprints?
Not if they want to be proactive. If you know that copper prices are spiking or that there's a shortage of glaziers in the region, you can buy out those trades earlier. It's about what they call clarity before escalation.
Clarity before escalation, I like that. It's about keeping your head up and looking at the horizon, not just down at your boots.
Exactly.
Okay, let's move to layer 2. Role-based career paths. This is where they really start to challenge the status quo. Because usually in construction, and a lot of industries really, you get promoted based on time served. You survive 3 years, you move up.
That's the traditional model. If you're still standing, you get a promotion. But CKE maps career paths based on clarity and control. It actually redefines what these roles are.
Let's walk through the hierarchy then, starting with the field engineer, the FE.
The field engineer, often seen as, grunt work, they're holding the measuring stick, marking up drawings. It's often treated like a hazing period.
But CKE calls this role foundational, not entry-level.
And that's a very deliberate shift in language. Entry-level sounds throwaway. Foundational means the whole building rests on what you do. Their focus is on blueprint literacy, verification, and sequencing.
Why is verification so critical there?
Because of the compound effect. If the field engineer verifies a dimension wrong or misses a sleeve location in a slab, the concrete gets poured. And once that concrete hardens, a $10 mistake just became a $10,000 chipping bill and a 3-day delay.
Wow.
The FE is the first line of defense against rework. They aren't just a helper, they're quality control.
Okay, moving up the ladder, we have the APM, the Assistant Project Manager.
And the shift here is from just being busy to being structurally reliable.
Structurally reliable. What does that actually look like?
An APM often feels like a glorified secretary, right?
Huh.
Filing paperwork, chasing emails, taking minutes. CKE reframes this as documentation control. They are the keeper of the official record. If a legal dispute happens 2 years later, the company wins or loses based on how well that APM organized the RFIs and the submittals.
So they're not just helping, they're building the project's legal shield.
Exactly.
Then we get to the big one, the project manager, the PM.
The PM. A lot of PMs think their job is to manage the project, which, I mean, it sounds reasonable given the title.
Seems pretty obvious, yeah?
Sure, but it's vague. CKE sharpens this focus. The PM is there to manage exposure.
Manage exposure. That sounds much more aggressive.
It is. It means you aren't just updating a spreadsheet. You are constantly scanning for financial and legal risk. You are interpreting the contract to make sure the company isn't doing work for free. A structurally clear PM isn't asking, how's the job going?
They're asking.
They're asking, where are we exposed right now?
And finally, you've got the field leadership. It's the superintendent and the assistant super.
The source describes the superintendent as the operational center of
I
gravity.
love that title.
It fits perfectly, doesn't it? Their focus is on daily coordination, conflict detection, and creating a quality control culture. If the PM manages the theory of the job, the contract, the budget, the superintendent manages the reality.
They protect the execution.
Yes. They make sure the electricians and the plumbers are accountable. They stop trade stacking, where everyone tries to work in the same corner at once.
So we have these redefined roles, but this is where the philosophy gets really interesting. Layer 3, system thinking. Because none of these people work in a vacuum.
No, and this is the aha moment. The industry often teaches these roles in isolation. You go to a seminar on how to be a PM, you go to a safety class to be a super, but CKE argues that a construction project is a single interconnected organism.
The sources describe a chain reaction of clarity. You walk us through that. Like, how does the field engineer's work affect the owner of the building?
Okay, so it starts at the bottom. If the field engineer has precision in their verification, that accurate data flows up. So precision in the field protects the assistant project manager's documentation. The APM isn't filing garbage, they're filing facts.
Right. Garbage in, garbage out.
Yeah.
So the APM has clean data. What's next?
Well, because the APM has a clear, structured documentation, that protects the project manager's decisions. The PM isn't guessing about what happened on site last Tuesday. They have the record. So they can make high-stakes financial decisions with confidence.
And the PM then protects the superintendent.
Exactly. The PM's clear decision-making protects the superintendent's execution. The super doesn't have to stop work to ask, hey, are we getting paid for this change, or do we have approval for this? The PM has already handled the exposure. The super is free to just build.
And the final link.
The superintendent's stability in the field protects the relationship with the owner. If the job is running smoothly, if the trades aren't fighting, if the quality is high, the owner is happy.
It's a cascade. One clear action at the bottom creates stability all the way at the top.
It is. And if you break any link in that chain, if the FE is lazy or the APM is disorganized or the PM is timid, that stress travels all the way up and the owner relationship suffers.
The sources also list a few core principles that apply to everyone in this chain. Make risk visible early, document direction clearly, and align authority with accountability.
That last one is huge. Align authority with accountability.
I mean, how often do we see people who are held accountable for a problem but have zero authority to actually fix it?
All the time. That is basically the definition of workplace stress. You need to fix the schedule, but you can't hire more people, or you need to cut costs, but you can't choose the vendors. CKE is trying to shine a light on those disconnects.
Okay, so looking at the big picture here, why is this whole operating system approach necessary right now? I mean, we've been building things for thousands of years. The pyramids are still standing, and I'm pretty sure they didn't have a weekly job intelligence report.
True, but the variables have changed. The sources point to a few specific modern pressures. First, labor turnover is way higher. You don't have the same crew for 20 years anymore. Second, compressed timelines. Jobs that used to take 2 years are now getting bid at 14 months.
And the juniorization of the industry, as they call it.
Right. Faster promotion cycles. Experience alone isn't enough anymore because you just don't have the time to gain it. You might be running a multi-million-dollar project 3 or 4 years out of college.
That is terrifying.
It is. You can't wait 10 years to develop some kind of gut instinct. You need a framework to bridge that gap now. You need to borrow the wisdom that you haven't had time to earn yet.
So what are the claimed results? If a professional or a whole company adopts this structured clarity, what actually changes on the ground?
The claim is that it shifts the entire culture from reactive to proactive. You stop fighting fires all day. It creates a stronger documentation culture, which, again, is your legal shield. But the
Mhm.
biggest thing is it just shortens the learning curve dramatically.
It also seems to change the very definition of growth.
It does, yeah. Growth isn't just about a bigger title or a corner office. It's a shift from defending the job, which implies you're already under attack, to protecting the job from the very start.
And the vision for GoToKE.com is to be the library for all of this.
A reference library that standardizes clarity. A bridge between the field and the office so they finally stop speaking different languages.
It's a compelling argument. It really does challenge that stereotype that construction is all about brute force and, trucks and concrete.
It frames it as deeply intellectual work. There's a statement in the source material that I love. It says, construction does not suffer from a lack of intelligence. It suffers from a lack of structured clarity.
That's a powerful summary. We have smart people, hardworking people, but the system they're operating in, or maybe the lack of a system, is what's failing them.
And CKE is trying to codify the unspoken rules of the industry into a format you can actually study, instead of just waiting to mess up and get yelled at.
So what does this all mean for you, our listener? Because even if you aren't pouring concrete tomorrow, I think there's a really universal lesson here.
I agree. It all comes down to the difference between effort and understanding. So often, we promote people for effort. Who stays the latest, who sends the most emails, who just looks the busiest. But real success and real peace of mind in a career, it comes from the structure beneath that effort.
Which brings up a provocative question to leave you with. In your own work, whatever that is, are you just operating on reaction and memory? Are you just putting out fires as they pop up? Or do you have a clear operating system?
It's worth asking yourself, are you protecting your work or are you just defending it?
Something to think about. That's our deep dive on the operating system for construction. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you on the next one.